There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space, and as timeless as infinity. It is a middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is a dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone. Hey guys, Alf here. I'm back with another Twilight Zone, and we're on episode 5 of season 1, Walking Distance. This one was directed by Robert Stevens, and once again, written by Rod Serling. Yeah, this is a pretty popular episode. I think J.J. Abrams said is his favorite. And it's an episode a lot of people remember. I think I'll get to the trivia at the end, because there's kind of more stuff to talk about first. I think it's better if we know the story on this one. So, basically this story is about a man named Martin Sloan. He's in his mid-30s. He's the vice president of a media company. So basically he's high up in a corporate world. He's driving around the countryside and he stops at a gas station to get his car serviced and to get gas and to have his car serviced. And he realized he's walking distance from his hometown. So he says, you know what, I'm going to go walk into my old town and check it out. I haven't been there since I was a boy, so I'm going to check it out. So he goes in there, he walks into the drugstore, and I don't know if you know, but back in the old days, back in the 30s, and, even sometimes in the 50s, drugstores would have an ice cream shop, like milkshakes and malts and shit like that. And so he stops by, there's an old man working there, and he was like, I remember when I was a kid, there was a 2-scoop ice cream was 10 cents and this and that. He's like, man, how times have changed. And he starts talking about how this old man used to be in the room upstairs that owned the place, and he would just stay up in his room upstairs, blah, blah, blah. He gets his ice cream and he gives the guy a whole $1, and the old guy's like, $1? He's like, yeah, it was worth it. And he walks out, and then you see the old guy behind the counter go upstairs and talk and open the door, and there's the old man that he was talking about. So he's walking around town, and he stops by a park. It was a park he used to go to a lot when he was a kid. And he sees a lady. He's like talking to her, telling him, I used to hang out at this park all the time. I remember when they built that carousel. There's a big carousel and a little canopy thing. And he was like, yeah, you see that right there? I used to... Oh, no, not a canopy. It's a bandstand. And he's like, yeah, you see that bandstand right there? I remember when I was a kid, I carved my name into the wood there. And when he looks over it, there's a little kid carving his name. And he's like, what the hell? So he wanders off and he goes up to the kid and he looks, and the kid's writing Martin Sloan on the pole of the bandstand. And he's like, hey kid, and he's basically like, what are you writing that for or whatever? And the kid jumps off and he runs away, and he chases him a bit, but it's a little kid, so he can't keep up with him. Eventually he walks to his old block, and he sees a little kid sitting on the ground. So he comes over and he starts talking to the little kid, and the little kid tells him, he tells the little kid, yeah, my name's Martin Sloan. And the little kid gets up and he's like, what? You're not Martin Sloan. I know Martin Sloan. He lives in that house right there. He's like, yeah, that's my old house. And the little kid's like, you're not Martin Sloan, you liar, and then he pulls out his driver's license and he's like, yeah, look, that's my name. And the little kid, eventually he walks off and he's like, whatever. Eventually he decides to just walk up to his old house and knock on the door. So he does. And when somebody answers, he notices it's his dad, but his dad's looking young, right? And he's like, what the fuck? And he's like, Dad, what? He's like, it's me, it's Martin, and the guy's looking at him like, what the fuck? And then he hears a voice say, who is it? And he's like, oh my God, is that Mom? And, the lady comes and he just keeps saying like, I'm your son, it's me, Martin, blah, blah, blah. They think this guy's a maniac or whatever, and they slam the door in his face.
What do you want, young man?
Mom, don't you know me? I'm Martin.
Martin? You must be a lunatic or something.
You mustn't be frightened. I grew up here, Mom. Don't you know your own son?
So he walks off next door to the neighbor, and it's a young dude cleaning his car, which is a 1934 Roadster, but it looks brand new. And he's like, wow, this thing's brand new. How the hell? And he's like, what do you mean? How do I get a brand new car? This just came out the lot. This is a brand new car. And that's when he realizes that he's back in 1934. I'm sure he realized it earlier, but that like cemented it, right? This is where something rare happens in the Twilight Zone. It's only happened in a handful of episodes where Rod Serling does a middle narration as well, halfway through the episode. He didn't do many of those, but he did one. He does one here. And then he's confused. Martin's confused, and he just decides to walk around town. And eventually he comes back at night to his old house, and he tries again to convince his parents that it's him, that he's like, hey, it's me, Martin. He's talking to his dad, like, off the porch, and his dad's, kind of looking at him weird and confused. It kind of, it almost seems like he believes him, but not really. It's a difficult thing to believe that there's some 30-something-year-old man telling you, who is 30-something, that you're his son, that he's your son. But he eventually, the mother comes out again, and she's like, oh, God, it's this guy again, basically. And he runs up to her and he grabs her. He's like, Mom, it's me. It's your son, Martin. And the lady, smacks him. She's like, what the fuck? Slaps him. And he's like, oh, fuck. He tries to show her his wallet, actually, he like pulls out his wallet to show her his ID to prove that he's Martin. And she, like, when she slaps him, he drops it and he leaves.
You've got to believe me. I'm Martin. You've got to believe me. Look. Here's my identification. All my cards. They'll tell you who I am. Look at them. Go on, they'll tell you. Go on, look at them!
When he goes back to the park, he sees himself there as a child on the merry-go-round. And he goes after him, and he tries to tell him, Martin, I have something to tell you, and it scares the kid. So the kid jumps off the horse of the carousel, and he chases him to the point where the kid falls off the carousel and injures his leg. And at the same time, Martin, the older Martin, you see, crunches down with pain and is grabbing his leg. And I guess, it's what do they call that? A predestination paradox, where you cause something that gives you problems in the future. So so basically he chased him, which made him fall and hurt his leg, which caused now the future Martin to have a leg injury. And, the doctors come, the ambulance comes, they take the kid away. And basically Martin says that, I only wanted to tell you to enjoy your childhood. But basically, in wanting to tell him to enjoy his childhood, he injured him. And now he's not going to enjoy some of his childhood because he's injured. But yeah, they carry him away. And that's like basically what he wanted to do, was to tell Martin to enjoy his childhood because, he's an older man in his 30s. In the corporate world, life is not what he thought it would be, and it's not fun anymore. And he's basically he's stuck in the nostalgic memories of childhood where he had no worries. He could play on a carousel, write his name on a bandstand, and there was nothing to worry about, and everything was fun. Whereas now he can't enjoy life because he's stuck in some serious job where he just has to be serious all the time. The ambulance carries the kid away, and we skip forward a little bit, and he's still sitting there at the carousel at night, and his dad walks up. And basically the dad's like, I don't know how you got here, but I looked through your wallet. You dropped it at the house, and I looked through your wallet, and I see, I looked through your papers. Everything says you're Martin Sloan. But the part that really convinces him is that he realized all his money have future dates in it, and his driver's license expires in 1960. And that's when he's like, I don't know how you got here or why you're here, but I know you are, and I basically tells him, stop looking in the past. Is there no carousels where you live? Why can't you enjoy the future? But regardless, stop living in the past, and you don't belong here. You should leave. Let little Martin have his time. You had your time already. You already went through that. You had your time. Now it's time. Now you have to let him have his time and, live his life and not interfere, basically, which I don't think he means it in the way of time travel, but yeah, that's kind of like a tenet of time travel, right? Don't interfere. So it kind of works out. And the father, without knowing, the things that people have talked about time travel, he is basically telling him, like, yeah, don't interfere in the kid's life. He has his own life. And yeah, so he tells him that, and Martin understands, and he's like, yeah, that makes sense. And it kind of tells him that, like, there's, fun and reward in being a child, but there's fun and rewards in being an adult too. You just have to stop living in the past and look at what you have and enjoy that. Yeah, you realize he has a limp now. He walks away, he has a limp, and you see him go back to the drugstore. But now it's all different, right? Now there's racks of comic books, there's teenagers everywhere dancing, rock and roll music. There's a different guy behind the counter. It's a young dude. And he's like, oh, everything's different, right? And he has to, now the ice cream sodas are 35 cents and not 10 cents anymore. Like, yeah, big difference, right? 10 cents, 35 cents. I wish they were still 35 cents. But, so now he discovers that basically he's back in 1959. And after, he was about to get an ice cream soda, but he changed his mind and he's about to walk away and he has trouble getting off the seat and walking. The guy's like, hey, what happened to your leg? And he was like, oh, actually, you see him contemplate it for a second. And he's like, I got this injury at the old bandstand a long time ago at the park when I was a kid. And then the clerk there says, it's a good thing they took that thing down. They condemned it, but I guess it was too late for you. And he's like, huh? And he was like, I mean, it was too late for you. You already hurt your leg. And he was like, oh yeah. Yeah, so he walks back to the gas station, limp and all, gets in his car and drives away. And I guess now he has a new understanding of how he can enjoy his life now and realize that, let me not live in the past and enjoy the time I have now. This has themes that repeats a lot in a ton of episodes for the Twilight Zone. There's another one called Stop at Willoughby that's very similar. A lot of stories have to take place with being stuck with nostalgia and living in the past and not enjoying the present, and being like the episode I did before this one with the lady who wanted to live back in her old movies is kind of the same story as well, right? She was stuck in the past and not living towards, the present or living for the future. And a lot of stories in this have to do that. I don't know if that was a prominent thing going on in 1959. Maybe people were looking in the past too much, or maybe it was just Rod Serling himself who had that idea that he was looking in the past too much, and this was his way of helping himself move to the future and look towards the present. But it is true, a lot of people do end up living in the past and they don't move forward, and we need to do that. If you're stuck in the past, you're never going to move forward. You're going to be stuck in past glories and never notice the things never notice or even attempt to do the things that would give you new glories and new happiness and stuff like that, or present happiness. The park in this episode was inspired by Recreation Park in Binghamton, New York. That was like 5 blocks away from Rod Serling's childhood home. And even still today at Recreation Park, it has a carousel in the bandstand like it does in the show. And even still today, they put a plaque there commemorating this episode. Yeah, if you go there now, you'll see the plaque. In the episode, they don't necessarily say what state it is, but we can assume it's New York, as other signs and stuff in towns around that are all names of towns from New York. But in the episode, the town is called Homewood. A super generic name, right? And it's his old childhood home. I guess that's kind of the point. Yeah, this is one of the most critically acclaimed episodes of The Twilight Zone. Paul Mandel of American Cinematographer wrote that Walking Distance was the most personal story Serling ever wrote, and easily the most sensitive, dramatic fantasy in the history of television. And it was also listed as the 9th best episode in the history of the series by Time Magazine. That when they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the show. This was also the first episode and one of few to not use stock music. The guy who made the music for the theme song for the intros, Bernard Herrmann, he wrote the music for this, and the music was written specifically for this episode to capitalize, I guess, on the feelings and stuff like that of the episode and the atmosphere of it. The guy who played Martin Sloan, Gig Young, great fucking actor. He does a really good job in this. The guy who plays his dad, Frank Overton, there's something up with this guy's eyebrows. I don't get it. He overly emotes with his eyebrows when he's talking. I'll show you a clip of it because it's pretty funny.
I guess we all want that. Maybe when you go back, Martin, you'll find that there are merry-go-rounds and band concerts where you are. Maybe you haven't been looking in the right place. You've been looking behind you, Martin. Try looking ahead.
Also, Ron Howard was in this episode as a very tiny child. Like, he was the little kid that he talks to at the beginning that says, "You're not Martin Sloan." It was one of his earliest acting roles. I'm pretty sure it was either his first or first few. Yeah, this is one of the episodes, if you're not going to check out the whole series, this is one of the episodes I would say check out. It's a pretty cool story. And a pretty good message. And I think a lot of people tend to look in the past for what makes them happy or gives them, glory or accomplishments. And it's fine if you're sated today with that, like, I've accomplished enough, I'm good, and I'm happy. But it's not fine if you think today is terrible and you hate your life now, so you only look in the past for happiness instead of fixing what you have today and trying to make yourself or making your way towards making yourself happy today and tomorrow. Thanks for watching, guys. Next episode, I'll be doing episode 6, Escape Clause. Sorry this one took so long. I took a week off because life just got a little hectic, but we're back on, and we're going to do this. Twilight, the new Twilight Zone with Jordan Peele is going to start soon, April 1st. So I may do something with that as well. So look forward to that. Again, thanks for watching, guys. I'm out. Peace.
Sloan House?
You still call it that?
Still call it what?
The Sloan House. My name's Sloan. Martin Sloan. What's yours?
You're not Marty Sloan. I know Marty Sloan, and you're not him.